Hello, this is Julian with Coffee Reviews, and today we'll be doing a taste test rankings video. Now this is a little different from our traditional blind taste test rankings videos. As you can see here, all of these cups are labeled at the top, indicating exactly which coffee is which. And the main reason for that is all of these coffees come from the same coffee roaster, which is Flower Child, based out of Oakland, California. And let's discuss Flower Child real quick, as they are a coffee roaster I've heard a lot about in the last couple of months. Now, like many, they were first brought to my attention from a YouTube video by Brian Kwan. So shout out to Brian if he is watching this video. Now, their coffees tend to be a lot more my profile sort of coffees, as they do appear to be on the more light side of things. In addition to that, all 5 of these coffees are washed coffees that come from either their current or recent offerings. So I was fortunate enough to be gifted samples of all 5 of these coffees. With the exception of the Kenya, I haven't tried any of these other ones. I got a sample from my friend Zach of the Kenyan coffee, but it was a little out of roast date, so I didn't want to discuss it as I didn't feel like it would be a fair review. But all of these coffees appear to be right at its peak. We're about 3 weeks into all of these coffees, so I'm very eager and excited to finally try them. So let's go ahead and introduce the coffees we have, starting with number 1 right here, which is the Roberto Figueroa, and this one is a wash-processed Honduras coffee. Then we have the Maria Lunid Ascencio, which is a wash-processed Colombian coffee. We have the Layo Teraga, which is a wash-processed Ethiopian coffee. The Guchienda Estate AA, which is a wash-processed Kenyan coffee. And then the Hamasho, which is a wash-processed Ethiopian coffee. And I am dying to get into these, so let's go ahead and start. And we will start with number 1, of course, the wash-processed Honduras. And truth be told, this is very much in line with what I was expecting. I feel like I will very much enjoy this blind taste test, given that these coffees are definitely my type of coffee. So this one does very much taste like a Honduras. I'm getting some nice herbal components to it. And I think I mentioned that this is going to be on the lighter side of the spectrum. So for all of those reasons, it's nice. I think what's going to win this taste test is going to be the coffee that comes out the cleanest and sweetest. I imagine that all of these coffees will be pretty clean, so whichever one ends up being the sweetest will probably be my favorite. I'm fully expecting it to be the Hamasho. I typically like Hamasho the most. However, this one smelled really nice when I was brewing it. All of these coffees smelled quite beautiful when I was brewing them, so I'm very curious to see which one will win. All right, number 2, the Colombia. This Colombia, it's got actually some nice tropicality to it as well. So it has a little bit more sweetness than the Honduras. I typically like Colombian coffees more than washed Honduran coffees, so I guess we'll see. But as of right now, this one's my favorite. I think that the interesting tropicality is a little bit nicer to me than what I experienced at the forefront of the Honduras, which was a little bit more of this kind of herbal, spicy aspect. All right, cup number 3, which is the Layo Teraga, the Ethiopia, first Ethiopia of 2. Okay, this one's by far my favorite as of this point, but also a little tropical. It definitely got more florality. It has been the sweetest to this point. I was very much expecting that, and given just how beautifully this coffee smelled while brewing it, I'm not surprised. So as of right now, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to hold off on the Kenya because I know the Kenya is quite potent and it will probably dilute the taste of my final one. So we're going to skip to number 5 for right now, which is the Hamasho. I actually said that I expected maybe to like the Hamasho the most going into it, and this Hamasho is actually quite nice. It is overly stone fruit-like, and that's going to be a huge winner for me every time I get a coffee that's very stone fruit forward. That's the most dominant aspect in this coffee, is a wonderfully clean and bright stone fruit. So that's a really nice coffee. I might be inclined to purchase a full bag of this coffee, as I've been kind of struggling to find some really nice washed Ethiopian coffees over the year. Even this is my first time trying it too without any sort of adjustments. That is a strong indicator as to how good this coffee is. All right, final one, the number 4, which is the Kenya. You know, this is actually better than what I was experiencing from the sample I had, this right here, because as mentioned, it was a little out of roast state, so I didn't feel it was fair. But it's got nice brightness. It's not overly acidic, which is pleasant. None of these coffees are overly acidic, which is something I might have expected going into it. The longest lasting finish, that's not surprising. As a result, I wanted to drink it last, but it's turning out better than I was expecting going into it, having a little bit of familiarity with this coffee beforehand. A little bright, I would say. What's the thing I'm picking up on the most? Definitely tell it's Kenyan. Yeah, berries at the forefront, but it's got a little bit of a interesting, it's got a little bit of that candied and that pastry sweetness to it. So better than my previous impression of this coffee. All right, let's start ranking these coffees. I feel like I have a pretty good idea of where I want to put them. So I feel like this one right here, Hamasho, ended up being my favorite. I really like this coffee. This is a wonderful coffee, and as mentioned, I might be more inclined to purchase this one, but I'm going to put this right here for right now. I think it's my favorite coffee. I think that this Layo Teraga was my second favorite. Yes, when drinking it right after the Hamasho, I definitely like the Hamasho more, but this one still has wonderful florality to it. A little bit more fruit forward, a little bit more floral forward. I'm gonna put this one in second place. So the two Ethiopians, which tend to perform really well in these videos, are my first two favorite as of right now. I think I liked the Colombia a little bit more than the other two, so we'll go with the Colombia real quick. On the second impression, while it is slightly tropical, it's a little bit less tropical forward than the brightness that I'm experiencing from the Kenya. So I might actually pick the Kenya as my third favorite, but we're gonna try the Honduras one more time. There's nothing wrong with the Honduras. I would actually be curious to continue working with this coffee a little more. I think the only reason I'm not necessarily the biggest fan is it doesn't have the same sort of sweetness as the other coffees on this table. This one I could score in the high 4s. This one right here, probably right there at the 4 mark. This one, higher side of the 3. This one also right there at that 3 mark. So these are all 4s, these are 3s, but this one's probably on the lower side of the 3. I feel like I could probably get a little bit more sweetness from that one. It's got pretty nice clarity too for a Kenyan coffee. I think it just has a little bit more vibrancy to it as of right now than the other two coffees on this table. And that kind of makes this actually a really simple finish. So the only coffee I really moved was the Kenya and the Ethiopia in terms of my favorite. But this was actually quite enjoyable. I think these coffees are all really nice. I'm looking forward to reviewing some of their coffees in the future. Now I know that they no longer have the Colombia among their current offerings, and they no longer have this Kenyan coffee, but they do have both of these Ethiopians as well as New Colombian coffee actually. So, or correction, as well as that Honduras that we have here on this table. I think I'm going to leave this at that. I feel like it was just a little fun exercise in trying some coffees from a coffee roaster I had very limited familiarity with. As mentioned, they are, actually I didn't mention this, they are on our suggestions recommendations list, and I have had a lot of people reach out to me asking my opinion of this coffee roaster. So in the near future, I should be reviewing some of their coffees. Given this really positive impression of them on a first try, I'm definitely going to be a little bit more inclined to want to try some more of their offerings here in the near future. Going to keep an eye out for something that may be even more my flavor profile, and hoping that this Hamasho stays around a little longer. But this right here has been a taste test rankings video of 5 coffees from Flower Child Coffee Roaster. Thank you for watching.